You hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Then I think we're good, dude.
All right. How's it go, man?
It's going.
It's going.
Life is a pain in the butt right now.
Yeah, you said it, man. How's the quarantine going for the Tyler family?
Um, Quarantine hasn't been terrible. Getting all the things squared away for LWG is a different story.
Right.
But yeah, I've been trying to get all the Trump administration stuff done, and you can tell that it's not figured out, and
Yeah. I
the
mean they
banks are having a hard time getting things done, and it's just been fun.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. The
So much fun.
so your name came up when I was talking to Kevin Broberg. Actually, I interviewed him about he played his Skullman at the Omaha PTC. You guys put on that secondary event and put
Yeah, the
money up, and
1K.
yeah, the side events for that event were awesome. I mean, top tier, wonderful. I mean, and not to say that the rest of the event wasn't already so great. It was the biggest PTC ever, right?
Yep. We
And
beat that number every year.
every year, yeah, it's growing every single time. I mean, so the success of your store and the environment that you cultivate is great. But the series that I've been doing so far has been like on particular decks, and I would describe you as a guy who's like me, where you go in and you're like, this is my single deck, right? Like you play Ken now for probably 2 seasons, basically, right? And before that, I know you played Vicious, and that deck was kind of ubiquitous with the Myles Tyler name, right? You had that Earth Vicious deck that was all lows and
You can't
throws.
block low. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that's about as long as I've been playing. But I've heard stories about how you played Terry for obvious reasons because he
Yep.
was the legendary wolf for such a long time. Where like that is cool, but that's not the reason I wanted to bring you on for interview. Like try as I might, I've never heard the Myles Tyler story, right? Like I've never heard how legendary wolf games came into being, and that's curious because you guys are so like you, and I say you guys because I really mean you, Danielle, and Kyrie, and the whole crew that you have out there is so attached to UFS in general, right? Like if I Google UFS, legendary wolf games is like the fourth thing down.
Right.
So I think that there are probably like a huge percentage of people who are really curious about how Myles Tyler came into the world of UFS and you know I don't there's
Kind
it
of cemented ourselves in its culture.
yeah and being such a positive force for the community in general. I mean, every time I've ever talked to anybody about the game or sold the game to anybody, because I demo the game quite a bit, the number one sell that I give is that the community is so great.
Right.
I'm sure you agree with me there, right? It's
100%.
the game itself is incredible and so mechanically intense. There's so many things you can do with it, but the reason I keep spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go to these events is not because I'm just going to go play some game. It's because I've made really great friends playing the game. We all go out and have drinks, and we have these wonderful dinners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's the culture that it's sort of cultivated, and you guys are a massive part of that. And I'm not trying to say that it's 100% all legendary wolf games. There are other guys out there like Sean over with Rochester and things like that. And UFS has been around for such a long time that there's got to be guys like you who have to put the extra effort, extra mile in.
Right.
But it's interesting to me that like I couldn't find your story. I couldn't find your story. I even went onto Facebook. I was trying to snoop onto Myles Tyler's Facebook, and and you have some really cool cars that are on your Facebook, but I couldn't
Thank
find
you.
I don't think I saw like a post like, hey, this is Legendary Wolf Games. It's and as somebody who came into the game, not recently. I've been playing for 2 years now, but
Right.
you guys were established at that point. I
Right.
felt. I felt. So, but I
Well, the online marketplace was like 2 or 3 years old at that point.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start. I wonder what would be a good place to start. What drew you to UFS in the beginning? Like, why did you start playing this game?
So I've told people this story a bunch of times, and I could ramble on about it for hours, and I'll do my best not to let that happen today. Um, Most of you that have watched this, and those of you that don't, I love fighting games. I grew up in the golden era of arcade fighting games, playing here at Family Fun Center in Omaha, and we were kind of the arcade here was a hub for fighting games in the Midwest. Akibara wasn't established in Denver. We hosted events every year, twice, 3 times a year. One big one called N Cubed, and Capcom vs SNK2 is my favorite fighting game. So that started all of this. And then I got out of high school in 2002, enlisted in the Army immediately right after that because 9/11 had happened the previous fall, and then left for basic training in the spring/summer, and went through withdrawals, not being able to play fighting games, so much so that I took my box that my boots came in, and I took a piece of printer paper and I drew the arcade buttons on the box and took a pencil and a rubber band and stuck it through the top and the bottom so that way I could practice my inputs when I had downtime in basic training. So I love fighting games. Was still on my game when I got out of basic. But I got out of basic, got to my duty station. Me and Danielle got married, which I met her playing fighting games through some friends, and found card games. So I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I played Magic a little bit. I was never a big fan of the game. I was big into the Full Metal Alchemist trading card game, much like I did with UFS. Like Edward Baum, the creator of the game and the CEO of the company, stayed at my house. Very good friend of mine at the time. Like I lived the Full Metal card game. And then it died because the show died, or the first show,
As
the
happens.
original. And then I needed something else to do, so I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. And then I got a demo for UFS at my local game shop down in Texas while I was in the Army, and was hooked. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "There's a Street Fighter card game? Done, sold. Let's go."
So what era of UFS was this when you heard of the game?
Oh, this was the beginning. I have the Tycho and the Penny Arcade decks in the other room still. I've played UFS since its inception. And then when King of Fighters got added, I was like, oh, nope, I'm done. We're good. No other card game matters anymore. I put Yu-Gi-Oh! Down. I stopped doing it. I was all in. But I was awful at the game. Me and Danielle, I got deployed and didn't get to play. Really, we tried playing over Skype and stuff like that, and it was mediocre, but we still didn't know what we were doing. So I got back, and there was a small store here in Omaha called Fantasy that was running tournaments for the game, and we walked in there with my Terry starter deck, Terry from old Fantasy Flight days, or no, Sabretooth days, and she had a My deck, or no, I think she's playing Charlie. Yeah, because she's playing Strike Heads. Anyway, and we got waxed, like, immediately. I figured out what all the cards did and immediately was bad at the game. And then grew to get better at it in that time, but this was right around the time that Fantasy Flight took over the game from Sabretooth and it kind of died. And then I started doing the card thing here in Omaha, and I didn't like what Fantasy Flight was doing in the game, so I quit playing. So I opened up running Wild Motorsports in my car shop and was doing that, and walked into Underground Gaming, which used to be a store here in Omaha where I ran UFS, and saw the Power Wave poster of King of Fighters 13 of Terry. I was like, oh, snap, they've got old school UFS stuff. But then I put the pieces together and went, that's not old. That's King of Fighters 13. I've been playing this. So I turned to the guy at the counter, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's this fighting game, card game. I was like, no, I know. What are you doing with it? And tell me more. So he pulls me over, and he shows me the display case, and the Mega Man Buster Cannon playmat is in there. And they're like, yeah, we're about to get product. I bought the playmat, drove home. I was like, Danny, oh, my God, UFS is back. We pulled all of our old crap out, then found out that none of it did anything. and started the upward swing. I called Jason from Running Wild Motorsports one day and was like, hey, I used to play the game, blah, blah, blah. And I could hear him on the phone. He was like, yeah, you're just some other dude. And like, if I knew now how close me and him were going to be and how close I was going to be to the game, I don't know what I would have done with myself back then. But yeah, that is the Cliff Notes version of my
how
UFS
Myles
life.
Got into the game, right? Which I mean, that's like 3 separate inputs, right?
Yes.
I do see that there's always like 2 camps of like how I got into this game, right? They're the people who came in from fighting games, right? Because it's a fighting game, card game, and the deep card game players. Although I think that, like you said, there's plenty of intersect in those 2 like communities, right?
Right.
We're all nerds playing competitive games, right? And so it's natural that universal fighting system like came to be, right? Because there is intersecting those 2 communities, right? There were definitely guys who were playing Street Fighter, and they were also playing Yu-Gi-Oh, because those are both Japanese games, right?
Yeah.
And there's
why wouldn't it work?
Yeah, why wouldn't it work? And it does. It really does. It really does. And one of the other things, because after I was never a fighting game guy, right? When I was growing up, all of the neighborhood kids were much older than me, so we would play Street Fighter, and they would all pick Ken, and they'd pick Akuma, and they'd be like, "All right, Chris, you get Sakura, right?"
Right.
And I was like, "Okay, I get Sakura," and I try to do my thing, and I get whopped in every time. So fighting games were never my thing, right? Like, I didn't even play card games until I was 23, and the only reason I got into card games was because I was chasing a girl. And she played Pokemon, you know.
Pokemon was my first card game. Like literally, like back in like 98, 99 when I got the first starter decks.
Right.
That was my first card game. So
I guess I could say that because I definitely had Pokemon cards growing up, but I had no idea how to play the game, right? Like most kids my age at that time, we were just like, look at this Charizard, right?
I didn't understand the layers of card games because the same thing happened when I started playing Pokemon. I walked into my first tournament, and I was a big proprietor of the cartoon, so I had Ash's starter lineup, a Butterfree, a Pikachu, and a Pidgeotto, and I had all these cards, and none of them worked together, but I was like, I'm fucking Ash Ketchum, let's go, and walked in and sat down and played my first match and died immediately. So like that refresher course I got at UFS, after that happened, I decided that I was never letting that happen to me again. So
well, you might have had a similar experience to me, because I'm still with that girl, by the way. She's taking a nap behind me. But I got into the game, and for me, like I'm a goofy. You've met me. I'm a goofy dude, and I like to do goofy shit in any game that I play. Right? If I'm going to play a computer game, I'm going to try to do the stupid thing. I'm not going to try to play the broken tier thing. Right? And Pokemon, I did that too. I was always trying to do some goofy combo, and sometimes it would work, and sometimes it wouldn't. But I went to a regional, and I got washed out completely, and it completely turned me off from the game. Like I just, I threw it down. I said, this is no fun. I don't want to have to play one of 3 decks in order to be competitive, right? And it feels horrible. And somewhere 3 years ago, I think a friend, his name is Scott. He doesn't play UFS anymore, but he was going to a local game store, and he said, hey, you should try this game. They just got Cowboy Bebop, and I'd never seen that anime. I was just like, I mean, sure, but. And he was a big fighting game guy, so that's why he got into it, right? He heard Street Fighter and he went in, but he kept trying to get me to come out, and he kept doing it. He was like, "Hey, you should play UFS. You should play UFS. You should play UFS." And I finally came in on my birthday, because I had nothing else to do that day. I think I got off work, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll go play this game." And he introduced me, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm down. I can play as a dog. I'm gonna play as a dog, right?" And I bought a box, and I started playing then.
Which was a really good time to get into the game, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I learned later that coming in at Cowboy Bebop exactly was the time.
Yep.
But my experience was so completely opposite of what Pokemon was, where I was kind of encouraged to go and, like, somebody showed me UFS Ultra, and they were like, you got to read the deep lore, right? I was like, oh, man, look at all these interactions. And from there, there's direct links to Legendary Wolf games. And that was my first exposure to Legendary Wolf games. I got my first singles from Legendary Wolf games, and in it came a note, which I still have. I found it. Is it it was on my desk. Somebody hand wrote me a note. They're like, "Thanks for buying from us," and it was signed by Danielle.
Yep.
And I was like, "Wow, everyone's so nice," you know. And I thought it's just because this is like a mom and pop shop, which it was literally, you know.
Except we're not mom and pop because we're not old enough to be mom and pop. I mean, technically, I guess we are, but
you are literally dad, dude. You're the dad. You are UFS dad. Okay.
Fair enough.
And I went and I bought Mexican Typhoons, and I got it from you guys. And I have that note. I thought I laid it out, but you know, whatever. I'll put a picture.
It's
of it.
all good. If anybody's watched this before, most of our notes have handwritten notes that say thank you for buying from us or random things that we write.
I so loved that. And you said a little bit about your mechanic shop. And I remember you saying in a conversation we've had that you were like I know you love cars because I've seen your Facebook, right? And you love cards, and it's. Tell me a little bit of how you pivoted from doing, you know, mechanic shit, right? You are a mechanic, correct?
I built the turbo car that's sitting out of my driveway that Shane never drives.
But you, it sounded to me like you used that as a way to build your, you know, UFS and Dragon Ball and Final Fantasy now, like card gaming empire now. Right?
Those are our big three. Yep.
Yeah.
So I've always been a person of thematics and art. I grew up drawing. I grew up doing manga. I was into all this stuff before it was big in the States. Like I got made fun of super hardcore in elementary, junior high, and high school back in the 90s. So much so that it has turned me into this kind of sometime off-putting asshole because I'm just direct in how I feel. Because like when I was really innocent and nice, it never got me anywhere. So like now I'm just like, this is how I feel about it. Not to downplay how you feel about it, but you're going to know. So I joined the military, became a tank mechanic, learned all about this stuff. The Fast and the Furious was a big push for me to get into the automotive stuff because I was in high school when that movie came out. And I loved cars before that because I love Transformers. Like,
right.
If you've never been to my house before, there's the shelf of like G1 Masterpiece, like all the current cartoons. Like that's what that stuff is over there. So like the mechanical aspect or the automotive aspect have always been ingrained in me. But I joined the military. I got out of high school. I stopped drawing. So what happened is my artistic side and thematic side came out and became automotive related. So the whole Terry thing, the shop was called Running Wild Motorsports because Running Wild is what's on the back of Terry's jacket. In Mark.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So if you go look up Old Man Bogard, where he cuts his hair off and he doesn't do rising tackle anymore because he's in his 30s, underneath the big blue and white star on the back of his jacket, it says Running Wild. So all of my stuff is always thematic. And I ran RWMS for 6 years and never really had any issues, but I was still a baby at business. I was fresh out of the military. I was in college getting my business degree.
Right.
I knew how to fix cars, but the car scene in Omaha, I don't know if I can be straight, but it sucks dicks. Like, honestly, it's awful.
Speak frankly. It's all good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's terrible. So I quit doing it, but at that time I had been already getting back into UFS and working with Jasco, and I was doing sales for them for like a heartbeat. In between doing my business, going to school, being in the National Guard after getting off of active duty, and running the repair shop. So like I've always been that person with like a full schedule. I'm always doing something. And I closed the shop because I got tired of the people. I didn't get tired of turning wrenches. I got tired of the eBay mechanics and the YouTube guys that were like, well, I watched them build this fancy car for $600 in 2 days. And I was like, sick. That's not how the real world works. It all takes time, and it costs a lot of money to be a part of this life. And you're getting this 30-minute Pit My Ride episode version of what took 6 months for them to actually do with the budget 50 times what you have. So I quit doing that because of the people. And I promised myself that my next endeavor would never feel or go the way that it felt running RWMS, because I loved what I did. We hosted a car show called Turbos for Tatas. We did all sorts of charity stuff. Jason wears his Turbos for Tatas shirt all the time.
Love it.
But yeah, it's great. It's 2 big pink turbos on the front. I can send you one, Chris Bromley. I have a box of them in the storage room. But like, I've always been that person that I love people. I can talk to anybody about anything, because while I was in the Army, I worked for people that could put me in a bag and make me disappear. So I learned to never be afraid of people, because anything can happen at any point. So when we were traveling and I showed it to my first PTC in March of 2014 or 15, yeah, I think it was 14, playing a Terry Bogard Earth All combo theme deck that was literally Team Fatal Fury cards, and literally waxed like 75% of the people I played at that tournament. I met Justin Pardo. I met Phil Birch. Phil Birch will still tell you the story about how I beat his ass with that theme deck. I Swift 2-0'd him. I played Ben Shoemaker when he was coming up with the first designs of Whitzel and gave him trouble. I met Garrison and his wife. I met AJ Murray. I met Bo Tucker. Like, all the names of UFS. Michigan was the biggest and most active PTC of the time frame. That was where all the big names went. I met Mike Lowe. Like, I literally, none of these guys knew who I was. So I show up, I wax face, I make 9th place when they played an extra round for no reason. I would have made top 8 in my first tournament playing this Terry theme deck.
Right.
And they added an extra round. I got 9th place. And then I start talking to them, and they're like, where the hell are you from? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm from Omaha. And they're like, oh, you have a play group? I'm like, yeah, we have like 35, 40 players. And they're like, what? So then Jason was like, okay, I know we talked, but what the hell are you doing there? And I was just like, well, I'm just a dude that is what's the terminology that I use with Shane? Most nerdy people are very introverted. Mm-hmm. I'm an extroverted nerd. So like, I can go to a nightclub and hang out at a nightclub, but still be a nerd. Mm-hmm. Nightclubs aren't normally a place where nerds go. So like, I pride myself in that I can do all of the things. I'm a jack of all trades in that regard. So a lot of our success was because the players here in Omaha at the beginning helped me cultivate that community. And if I'm passionate about something, I'm very open about it, and that helps too. So we grew this player base. Me and Chris Nixon had this rivalry where it was like, we were both playing Terry 1, and I would show up one week and I would win, and then he would show up the next week and then he would win, and then I would come back to the drawing board, and it was like this back and forth. And then Chris started getting tutelage from like Garrett Brett and the big boys while I was still figuring this out on my own. And then it became Chris shows up and does this, Chris shows up and does this, and Chris shows up and does this.
He got the edge.
He got the edge, yeah. So I showed up to Michigan with my deck that I had been losing with and was just like, I don't care. I just came to play the game and still did well. So, and that is kind of like the jump off point for what put me to where I'm at right now.
So at that point, you hadn't opened any store, right? This is at a local game store that you had built this player base, this community in Omaha.
And we essentially, I had traveled and played so much. We just amassed all these cards.
Right.
And I love KOF. So I was buying shit because I loved KOF.
I want to see more of it, right?
I want to see more. Yeah, I need a playset of Trinity Geysers. I'm gonna buy all the Neo Max that was ever printed if I can. And then it was like, well, Rochester's doing it, and this isn't a diss on those guys because I love Sean O'Brien and Kevin and Jesse and all those guys, but their spin on the things that Jasco was doing wasn't always the most positive. And in my opinion, for somebody that was investing so much money into the game, I didn't like that. I felt like if you were going to be a figurehead or at the forefront of what you're doing, positivity should always be what you promote. Even if the situation surrounding what you're promoting is negative, you need to find the good aspects of it and give that to people, because that's all what we want. I mean, we can talk shit and get on Discord and blah, blah, blah and bash each other all day, but the reason why we play this game is the positive things about it. The community, the gameplay, the IPs, all those things are what bring us together. So while you can find the negative things all day, I wanted my focus to be always positive. So me and Danny sat down. I did the thematic. It has to be Terry related, and since I had used Running Wild with the car shop, I was like, all right, well, he's the legendary wolf. Initially, it was like Southtown Games because that's where Terry's from. Like there were so many random names that I came up with, and then LWG stuck because LWG works.
Mm-hmm.
It rolls off. It's very easy. It's not complicated. And then the star is my favorite shape, and then we have a husky. She's an old lady upstairs. You might have met her when you came here, Azumi, and her face isn't the basis, but like that's what we wanted. I didn't want it to be too Terry, but I wanted it to be something that stuck in your memory. Right. So the colors are red, black, and white because they're my favorite colors. It's the star, and then the wolf face is gray, but the blue in her eyes is a throwback to the color from Dragon Ball Z because that's the color of the eyes from a Super Saiyan. Because I love that color. Mm-hmm. So it again, everything is thematic.
Right. I describe that as a Mod Podge, right? A wonderful melting pot of ideas. Yeah, well, and that's what it is, right? Well, speaking of the positivity that Legendary Wolf Games has been a force for, I mean, that's a big part of why I signed up for when you guys pulled the sponsorships every year.
I Am Legendary, yeah.
I don't like I'll go to events regardless, but like I'll put on that jersey because I support Legendary Wolf Games, right? I support the sense of camaraderie and community that you guys put out, and I want to be a part of that. Like, and if I got to put on a shirt and I got to put a mat down to do that and be a part of that and be a force of positivity for the community, I'm going to do that. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that you even want to do that because like we get a lot of applications, but like I really appreciate your attitude towards the situation too. And we have this really complicated way of figuring out, like we all go through and we rate people and then we go through and the ones that stick, we then go through and pick, and then it's this pecking order from there. But it's not even about being a good UFS player. Right. I want people with a good attitude. And I've had to like field not sponsoring players, even though they're some of the best players in the game, right? Because I don't want the negative attitudes that sometimes come with people, and even had to pull some people aside and say, if I'm going to pay you to wear my brand, my baby on your back or your front or on the table, you have to have a better attitude. If you don't want to have a better attitude, then I'm not going to pay you to do this because it costs me money, of course, to sponsor everybody.
Of course.
And while the results show, as you see, the Worlds this year, top 5 players of the year last year, all LWG sponsored players before and after. Mark Tyner won both singles and teams at Worlds. He won at Nationals. He won singles at Nationals.
Right. Jacob Johnson won UK Nats.
Jacob Johnson, yeah, UK Nats. So like our players before Omaha was just a home for UFS. Like we weren't top tier. Now we're creating worlds and national champions or top place finishers at every event when people show up.
Right. The results speak for themselves.
Right.
Sure.
And that's because we try to teach people to play UFS the right way. You know, we've dealt with a lot of people that are like, well, Scorch Wheel's a 2-check that draws you 40 cards if you put 40 foundations down. Just play it. And that's not the right attitude to have. Garrett Brett never won any of his cardboard playing no gimmicky bullshit like that. Right. He played good card games. Most of the people that win at this game, that's what they do. So when we teach, that's how we teach. When you come in for a demo or you sit down at the store, you're talking to me or you're talking to Shane or whoever, we taught them how to play the game, and we did the Chris Bromley way or the Myles Tyler way where we were like, go explore, go see what you like. And if it doesn't work, I can tell you why I felt like it wasn't going to work in the first place, but you could prove me wrong. So, and that has happened. And it's this good back and forth. And instead of telling people that there's only one way to do this, like with most card games where it's like play the big 3 or lose.
Or lose, yeah.
Or lose. Every single one of the players that's come out of Omaha has played something that they've enjoyed and done well with it because, again, they're learning how to play the game right. And that's like the most important part about this for me. And it's been hard to translate that with Dragon Ball and Final Fantasy because Final Fantasy is kind of a Magic clone. And it is one of those play the big three. Dragon Ball, not so much, but it still borrows some of that essence from Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's not a diss, but like I enjoy those games more than I'll ever enjoy Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. So I just trying to do things the right way and like teach it that positivity that we talked about has been very, very important. And I think a lot of the reason why we've been successful. So.
Well, and being that force, right? It's one thing to talk the talk, right? You have to also walk the goddamn walk. You know, you have to be at these events like you've been at these events. You've got to set a standard for your family and your friends and the people that you sponsor at these events, and you're doing that. And that's huge. That's huge. That's why Omaha has had the biggest PTCs and the biggest play group in the country. I think and that's not easy. Like I live in Miami, right? I live in Miami, which is several
it's like 5 times the size of
Omaha. Which and it's not because everybody in Omaha is a degenerate nerd, right? Who just stays inside all day, right? It's because people are out there working, right?
Right.
You guys have cultivated that atmosphere, and like I've demoed the game at several stores. It is not easy. It is not. You need help. You need to have patience. You know, and I was a music director for 9 years. I work with kids all the time. So teaching is what I love to do. But teaching UFS is not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's very trying. And sell the game is so exhausting. It's like cold calling for what's that knife company, Cutco, right? Feels like that sometimes, right?
Well, and that was a lot of the big thing with me is that, you know, we had Underground and we had this community, and then Jasco had printing errors, like getting the game out back when Mega Man and Darkstalkers came out, and there was this big delay. So like imagine trying to keep this game alive during that time frame, and we did it, but like our player base shrunk dramatically. And then, you know, Underground wasn't doing so well due to, you know, some mismanagement things. You know, I love the place, but like, you know, it's the fact of the matter. Yeah. And then it closed. We jumped from a bunch of different stores, you know, and I never got paid for any of the stuff that I did. You know, I was off running the shop and in the guard, and Danny was getting started with what she's doing. So like financially, we were always in a pretty good place to be able to do whatever we want. And the UFS aspect of it, it was just like, all right, well, can I put singles up that we overflow singles up in my store? You get a percentage of it, blah, blah, blah. You know, we had people steal cards from the store. I had people trash and everything that we did. Like, it was like all the hard work that I was doing, but never asking for anything, was always getting put down or trashed. And I was, you know, the blame for why stores closed, and it like all this stuff got put on me. And I was just like, all right, well, none of that's true. So I see I see your bet, and I'll raise you. I'll just open my own store. And that's what I did. And a lot of it was because I was like, I got tired of moving from store to store and having to resell this game to people and to store owners that were so stuck on, I'm going to carry Magic. Even though their margins are terrible, I'm going to carry Yu-Gi-Oh! Even though their community is terrible. And, you know, it was just this fight. And I got tired of the people in Omaha in the card community, and I was like, all right, well, I've been traveling playing this card game. I've got all this extra crap. I don't want to do eBay and all this other shit. And Sean O'Brien was it. Rochester was it. Like, there was nobody else. I mean, Cool Stuff was doing it, but they weren't. So we launched the marketplace. And since we had so much overflow KOF, people were like, nope, I need this.
I remember somebody telling me that Kingdom of the Fighter sets were short printed or something like that. But they
Neomax, the last one.
The last one, okay.
The first 2 sets, they had a ton of it. It just sold over the course of the license and then the afterlife of the license because of the short to release schedule because of Mega Man and Darkstalkers.
Because you had so much overflow of these cards, that sort of easily segued into having your own marketplace.
Yep.
And then because you needed to have a play group, right? The place you were talking about closed, and you were kind of transient between the places. You just say, hey, I'll just make my own place.
Yeah, screw it. I'm done.
Was your first venue in that mall where you're at right now? Or
yes.
Did you move into that later?
Yeah. I can send it to you if you want, but there's a picture of me standing up against the back wall of Terry doing the geyser from the art from Trinity Geyser.
Yeah.
And the thing says, get ready. And that was what it was. So to even push this even more, if you've walked into the store and you've seen it, I built all of that. So all of the construction work, the paint. So like Mason and Danny and, they have helped me, of course, but like there's no big contracting company that came in and set it up. There was no, huge electrician company that came in and did a bunch of stuff. Like, I'm very handy. So I was like, I'm not going to pay anybody to do this. I'm on a budget. I got this. So we went in and we built the framework off of an old Aeropostale, which used to be in there. And I tore down the dressing rooms. I put carpet down. We painted the walls. I plastered all of the holes. I made sure all the lights and everything worked. I've installed the cameras, all the technological infrastructure. Literally all of the things that you walk into that place and see, this guy. So just as a testament to my drive to just make sure that things are done, that's kind of how it goes. And it saved me a bunch of money on the front end. I think the store cost me somewhere around like $25,000 or $30,000 to start up initially. And if you go back and you look at pictures of it from like day 0, December 1st, 2017, we were supposed to open at 10. We didn't open at 2 because we opened at 2 because we weren't ready. There's a whole wall of Mega Man, the board game that I had bought from Jason. A bunch of board games from my house that I had never opened that were up. It was literally, there was nothing there. The place was nothing. And we started running UFS events. We started running Final Fantasy and Dragon Ball. We took all the card games that every other store in Omaha was like, we don't want it. And we made it. I made it my baby. And as crazy as this is going to sound, a lot of my choices have been off the hip. I didn't sit down at the beginning of this and go, this is what we're going to do. Okay. I looked at the landscape and I went, that's the best decision that we can make right now. Let's move in that direction. We need to do this with Dragon Ball Super. Same thing with Final Fantasy. Oh, I love Transformers. There's a Transformers card game coming out. We're going to support it, and here's how we're going to do it. Financially, there was a lot of analysis that I needed to do to make sure that the money that we were putting into it, we got back. Right. But, like, there was no grandiose, like, Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec, whiteboard at the start of this about how this was going to go. A lot of it because I didn't want to do things that game stores traditionally did. Because when you go to a normal game store, you feel like you're at some old dude's basement. There's a bunch of card boxes. There's a bunch of comic books and crap. There's a bunch of stuff that sat on their shelf for 40 years that nobody's ever bought. And it's always kind of the same experience. And the staff there, they're just there to sell you what you came for, and that's it. Right. When you come to the store, I'm trying to teach you how to play any of the card games. My staff, that's the rule. They have to demo. I don't care. If somebody sees something that they're interested in, if they're standing by the Dragon Ball figures, you tell them about Dragon Ball Super and you ask them if they want to learn how to play the card game, and you sit down and you teach them. Right. And everybody needs to talk to everybody, because if I can do it, that means that they can do it too. So that's the rule. And that's why a lot of our success, it comes from that. Mark Tyner, world's and national champion back-to-back, never played a card game. He came in the store. I taught him how to play UFS. And he was like, all right, I'm doing this now. We're all friends. Let's go. And never looked back. And he's only been playing the game for like a year and a half, almost 2 years now.
Yeah, he's been playing as long as I have. I remember we were both at our first Nats, right? I remember talking to him at the time, and he was that guy's a chatterbox. Love him to death, man. Love him to death.
He's a character for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely a character. Love that guy to death. He's so much fun to be around. No, but I mean, that must make finding people, the right employees, really tough. I mean, it's got to be really tough to find the right guys for a store like that. I mean, like I've been to Legendary Wolf Games and went to the Omaha PTC, and I was floored because that place is gorgeous. I mean, yeah. We have a few cool stuffs down in Florida, because that's where their home base is in Florida. And those places are fine, but it's like a warehouse with a carpet,
Right.
It's very, stripped down, and they make good money. They do their thing. They're always full because they play Magic. They do Yu-Gi-Oh! And all that stuff. But it doesn't have the
personality.
Yeah, the heart. Like when I walked into Legendary Wolf Games, I was like, oh, like these people are here because they love it, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of zealotry, I think, that I feel when I talk to the guys who work at your store. I mean,
Yeah.
Shane is a total quandary to me. I mean, I've known him for a long time at this point. I met him at my first event when I went to the Atlanta PTC, and he's just like this wizard, you know.
Yeah,
but
no,
like
he is. What the way his brain works with card games, I've traveled with him so much, and I love him. He's literally upstairs playing Remake right now. I love him so much, but I cannot. I can pass off the Myles Tyler way of playing UFS.
Right.
I can't absorb the Shane Duckworth way of playing UFS because I've tried.
I think it's impossible, man. I think it's impossible. I honestly, I played him a ton casually, and I played him at a lot of events since he's come back. I just don't understand he'll do math, and I'll see it work out, and I'll even he'll be counting foundations, and I'm like, oh, I figured out his turn, and he does something completely different.
Completely different than what
you're
expecting.
It just doesn't make any sense in my head.
And he's so good at selling you on feeling like he's going to die, but he's already done the math on how he's not going to. He knows, but he tries to make you feel like, I don't know, man. What you got over there?
Oh yeah. It's look when he sees your take, he goes over his cards. He's like, oh.
All right. It's time.
Yeah. Oh, plus you're a little black.
Yes, exactly. Like he didn't have it in the first place.
Yeah. I can see why he's so successful at demoing the game, because he's done that everywhere, right? Because he is
good at it.
He is an entertainer. And I don't know if it's intentional or not. It must be, right? It has to be. But he's so good at it. Like, I see your face because that's what I thought at first. But then I watch him play other people, and I played him a dozen times, and I was like, he's got to be like, I don't know.
He loves this game. He's very good at it. He understands it, I think, better than most people on layers that some of us have never even thought about.
Oh yeah.
And he's very good at demoing because he's very good at demoing.
Mm-hmm.
But like Shane himself, he is just the guy he's just there. He's just like, all right, well, this is what we got to do. Let's go get it done. So, like, even the entertainment aspect of it, I'm like, nope.
Maybe not. I don't know. I'm convinced that he's got to be a party to it, right? Because there's no way that you get to that level of theatrics and not be at least somewhat cognizant of it. But
that's fair.
I don't know. Although I've tried to get him. You got to remind him to message me back, because I asked him to come onto the show, and he was like, sure, dude. And then I was like, what time would be good? And he was like, I don't know.
So I will do that, but part of he asked to actually take vacation for Remake coming out, but then the world ended. So he's been on a 24-hour playthrough of the game right now.
Okay, I'll give him his space. I know
yeah.
I'm sure he's frustrated because he can't put it on 4 times speed. Because I remember he was doing that on his phone.
Literally before you messaged me, we were having a conversation about the things he doesn't like about the game, and the first one was the interactions with things take too long.
That sounds like Shane to me, dude. 100%.
Oh, I guess he posted his feelings about Remake so far on Facebook.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I gotta go look at that after this.
Yeah.
That's gotta be a trip and a half.
But yeah, we were talking about my team. So Samantha Stevens, used to be the manager at the store, and through some push and pull, she ended up not doing it anymore. And there were things that she did a very good job of, on our initial startup. And then Mason took her spot as the manager of the store, Mason Johnson, and you guys probably know his brother Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
But Mason isn't the necessarily card game mind that me and Shane are, but like he loves D&D. He is huge into Dragon Ball. Like he has a different headspace about things than we do, which is a good a different twist on it. It helps the store look at things from a different perspective, because I just want the store to be an extension of the basement that you see right here, but
Mm-hmm.
Mason's thought on it is different, and he didn't have a lot of experience being in the management position, so I've been trying to give him that, but he knows he's nerdy enough to where like he works very well at the store. My other guy, Ramon, who you haven't met yet, I think you might have met him. He played at the PTC or showed up, but he's a part-time guy. He's big into Final Fantasy. He's probably the best Final Fantasy player in Omaha. Him and Shane, like neck and neck.
Right.
and he's a very good guy. He's been running the Final Fantasy tournaments as we can get them fired off. The community wants more from us in prizing, not realizing that we're offering to ship all the prizing out, for most part for free after $20. And, that's a whole other conversation. But like, we've been trying to get these online tournaments that you've been playing and going, and people are just kind of greedy to some degree. So like, that hasn't been working. And then we just recently hired another guy, part-time, Trevor, who runs Alpha, which is the esports lounge that we have at the store where we do like Super Smash Brothers and Street Fighter and things like that. That's an extension of LWG. It all used to be internal, but imagine a Friday night with 15 Final Fantasy players,
right?
10
all those
players,
guys,
and then 40 Smash players in my space. It was too much.
Well, that's a good problem to have, right? I mean, if you're at the point where you're like, I need to buy another space for this, like, good for you, Myles Tyler. Fuck, we have way too many dudes in this building. I guess I gotta buy another one.
Yeah, and and the mall really likes us because, like, when you come to the store, you're there for like 4 to 8 hours, maybe more. You're eating in the food court. Your girlfriend's buying stuff, so like, they make sure that we get squared away and we taken care of because, like, if the financials that they get to see from the store, they're always doing this, and they're like. The lady that signed my lease was like, "You sure this is going to work?" And I was like, Yep. And then as they watched the store progress, they used LWG as we're their A+ student. So whenever like the corporate company that owns the building comes in and they need to show off, they come to our space because we're not a $1 billion, we're not JCPenney, we're not Dillard's, we're not Zoomies, we're not, Hot Topic. I am literally a 36-year-old black guy from Omaha, Nebraska that fixes Hondas in his spare time and has this store with the same feeling of one of the big companies that you're talking about, which is what I want, long term. But it is a different experience, definitely. And we've done a lot with nothing in a very short amount of time. And I'm hoping that after we get through all of this quarantine crap, when everybody's thirsty to get back out and like have a good time and play cards, and we get My Hero coming and things like that the store just erupts again, which is why we've been trying to keep our foothold, which is why we did the online events. My team spearheaded all of that. Shane, Danny, Mason, Momo. Like, I literally was like, Momo, you're in charge of Final Fantasy. Mason, you're in charge of Dragon Ball. Shane, you're in charge of UFS. And Danny, you need to coordinate with all of them because she runs the online aspect of the store.
Right.
Because she's our coder. So I was like, tell me how this works to where we take care of the players, but we also ensure that the store stays in a positive place, because I've essentially, and I talked about this in my live stream, we haven't fired anybody because I like my team too much. I don't want to let anybody go. But Trevor and Momo are on call, and Momo's running the Final Fantasy events as he can. And then Mason and Shane are salaried managers. So they're on admin leave, but they're still going in and doing things because they're still getting paid from the store. But all that stuff is cut down, so that way, the money that the store had amassed in savings can ensure that we get to that point. So all of the PPP stuff that's going on with the government, all of the disaster relief stuff that I'm trying to get for the store right now to help ensure that push when we open back up. Those have been the most important things. I don't want to let anybody go because I have a good team and my team makes that place successful.
Of course. Yeah.
So, and that's like super, super important to me.
Well, and it wouldn't make sense to be, this positive force for the game if you weren't also going to be a positive force for your people. I mean, that if you have a sort of philosophy like that, it permeates everything you do, I think, right?
Yes,
and it would be disappointing to me if you weren't acting that way from a business standpoint as well.
Right.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I admire that. That's all I was going to say.
It's hard, let me tell you for sure, because the balance of trying to make sure that I take care of my people, but also make sure that the brand stays good and healthy. And financially, we're not in any bad spot. Like, honestly, we're not. Like, I've been very loose with our spending, trying to fill the store up and make sure that, we're setting the standard for how things are going to go in the future. But at the same time, amassing enough wealth to where, like, if something catastrophic like this did happen, we were prepared for it, which we have been. And I think another important layer to that is, and I won't go too far into it because I ramble and I apologize for that.
It's all good, dude.
You met Kevin Good, our community leader for UFS, and every game has a community leader. So outside of my initial team of people, there is a person in charge of every game at the store and everything that we do. And these guys are my if the employees were my A team, they were my B team. Not necessarily because I pay them. We comp them, of course, to make sure they're squared away. But these are the people that give me the ideas, that make sure that the tournaments are ran on time, that run the group chats on Facebook and Discord, that interact with the players. And they are the boots on the ground people, which, as somebody that used to do that for UFS and give Jason feedback, it's nice to implement that. So my community leaders are the other reason why we are successful, because instead of the store employees having to carry this backpack of ensuring that everybody gets taught all the games, the community leaders help with that. So we host demo days and they show up, and they're in the mall or at a convention or whatever, and they show up and they teach people how to play. Because not only are you seeing that level of dedication from the man upstairs, but you're seeing it from his team right underneath him, and then the people right underneath them. But the hierarchy isn't like everybody has to do what I say. I wanted the feedback from everybody, because their feedback is what helped us grow. So Kevin Good, he does such a good job with UFS at the store. He's the one that's been coordinating all the tournaments on Discord. He's the person you're going to be talking to about prizing.
Yeah. I mean, he's a delight.
He is.
Love him. I've met him personally a few times. He's a very nice guy.
Ramon and Chris McKinney are doing Final Fantasy. Chris McKinney is great. He loves the game. We sponsored him in Final Fantasy this year. Mason and Noah Miner, they run Dragon Ball. Noah's the community leader. Then Jeremy Breyer, he runs Transformers at the store. Trevor, who I just hired, he was the community leader for Super Smash Brothers and is now doing both. He is essentially the avatar, bridging the gap for me, because our previous part-time guy was kind of and then Sue and her husband Joe run this awesome drone flying thing on Wednesday, where they get these mini Whoop drone things where they take over Alpha and they fly them into space. Dan Good was helping us interim run Final Fantasy, but he also runs Pokken. He's Kevin's brother. I have this good, like, 3-tiered system where everybody their goal is the same thing, to help support and make sure that the store works. At the base level, the community leaders, and then my management team helps supports them, where they get a budget every quarter for how many entrants they had at the tournament. Like, there's this formula where they get money to put back into the game that the store gives them for the work that they do, on top of comping them for with store credit and extra promos and things like that, make sure they're taken care of. And then making sure my team is squared away, like I'm doing right now. And then me, myself, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I don't take any money from the store. I take no pay. Danny, she makes enough money, and my side ventures, fixing Hondas and things like that, is where I get all my spending money and things like that. But any dollars that, for that first year and a half where I was there by myself, I never made any money off the store. It pays for my trips, but that stuff is also advertising, marketing. I can write that off in my taxes, but that's what I'm doing. At every turn at an event, I'm having business meetings with stores that are asking me how to get UFS to work. I've had companies, other game stores, come to Omaha and check out the store and use some of our framework to get there started. So, like, while not taking pay, the store helps me travel and, hang out with Chris Bromley and hang out with, all the guys in Texas and Florida and Vegas and everywhere. So, like, it's been like an honor and kind of a humbling experience at the same time. As much as I'm like, I'm going to beat your ass when I sit down across the table from you and turn to you as quickly as I possibly can with Ken.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I can't do any of this without people like you. I can't do it without my team. I mean, I can't. I've tried. I did.
Well, there's a great I'm half Paraguayan, and there's a great Spanish phrase that roughly translates to show me your friends and I will tell you who you are. And that speaks volumes. And I've always tried to live by that, right? Like my older sister is this wonderful hippie lady. She lives in Louisiana. But through life, I watched her grow, and it showed me how to not act in high school.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of her friends were these whacked out dudes, and it hurt her. It hurt her. And so I always went out of my way to surround myself with the best people that I could find, because I felt more positive about myself if I surrounded myself with
positive people.
Yeah, that's that, and it really that adage really. Ever since I was a little kid, my grandma would tell me, my abuela would tell me, and I was like, that's how I need to live my life. And I see that in you and the way you purport to run your business, and the way that you surround yourself with your employees and friends and community managers and all that stuff. And I think that's a I'm not going to say Matt. I think it is the reason that Legendary Wolf Games has been successful, especially considering that you do not run Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! In store. Like, I know you guys do Pokemon, but like, that's tough. Those are the two big games, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
we get flack for that all the time. We get you don't carry Magic? Good luck.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. And there are, of course, other considerations. You were talking about how there's zero margins in running Magic, and the community is terrible with Yu-Gi-Oh! Everybody who's ever watched the show is going to know those things, right? Like anybody who's had to play a tournament next to Yu-Gi-Oh! Players knows that there is a stigma with it, as much as that sucks, right? Like I know some Yu-Gi-Oh! Players are great, but I've had my stuff stolen because I was playing its cool stuff, and it just happened to be next to some Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. So I can see why you wouldn't want that culture in your store, right? Because
we take a lot of pride in that, and my forthright attitude. If you're a piece of shit, I tell you you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, get out.
And my goal is to help you not be a piece of shit. Like, a lot of our guys, have come in the store with depression or, a lot of social issues. And, as straightforward as I am, I'm still very understanding, but I don't let people like make excuses. I'm like, if you want you to be better, then these are the things that you need to do to be better. If you don't want to do them, that's fine. But as somebody who gives a shit, if I wouldn't be doing my civic duty to myself and to anyone and to you if I didn't try to help you be better. And I think that's gotten me a lot of respect from the players of the store as well. It doesn't always work. There are some people that, like, you probably have heard that I rub noses with UFS and abroad, but like seeing Jason's.
You can lead a horse. You can lead a horse to water. They're not always going to drink. I mean, and right. when you're gonna bump heads with people, not everybody is gonna like that. So I mean, right. I think that's a part of the territory.
Right. And I was saying right before this, seeing Jason's approach with Jasco to where his numbers printed on everything, I liked that. Traveling and playing the Pro Tour circuits before the store opened officially, like the brick and mortar store, I went to every event, and I had this little book that I wrote down things that I saw that I liked and things that I didn't. And the things that I liked, I kind of picked the things I wanted to use and implemented them. And then the things that I didn't just throw them out. I found better ways to do them. So like, that's why there's no white card boxes all over my store. Everything, there's a kiosk now in front of the singles display where, you go in, you place your order, and we go back and we pull the cards, and then boom. So none of that stuff is in front of the store, because that's another thing that, when some lady that doesn't know anything about card games, she comes to the store, she's like, this place, what the hell is all these? It's a disaster. That never happens. And we could have that. We could live that way of doing card game stuff, and other card stores in the malls do it, but that's not how I wanted to do things. So just taking all of that information and that data and using it positively kind of helped set the tone for, like, when you said when you walked in the store the first time last year and we're like, oh, okay, I see you. and we get that. We get that a lot. And like, the store is not huge. Like, I think total with the storage room in the back, it's like 3,600 square feet. So 600 of that square feet is the storage space that wraps around the back. But like, the main store spot is 30,000 feet, and it's almost 50-50, like where 1,500 is retail and then the other 1,500 is play space. And we try to flex that like we did the PTC to make sure that we fit all the people in there. But like, 2 years ago when the store opened, like I said, there was no super grandiose idea of where the store was going to be. Financially, there were places where I knew I wanted the store to be, but like adaptation is something that I pride myself in. And a lot of game store owners don't do that. They do the same thing over and over and over and over again. Through our adaptation to the way that we do things, it helps us connect to players like you and everyone else that we try to take care of. So the kiosk, the TV display now that shows the calendar, the anime stuff that's up in the store, like all of that was, all right, guys, so we've hit this mark. What do we do now? The landscape is different than it was a year ago when we started this, or a year and a half ago. What do we do? Oh, well, My Hero's still big, but Demon Slayer is taking off. All right, well, we need Demon Slayer stuff in the store, but how do we put Demon Slayer stuff in the store without like flooding your feed with Demon Slayer stuff, because that already happens enough? How do we make it just enough to where it's nice to have, but not overpowering at the same time? It's like cooking. So
what's the next step for Myles Tyler and Legendary Wolf Games after the quarantine? Are you guys looking at franchising? Are you guys looking at expanding? Are you cool where you're at? Are you content? What are you doing?
So long term, and I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit here. Okay. In December and January, when I traveled to Florida in December for the PTC. And in January for a Final Fantasy event that James Lockwood, who now is like big in UFS, he sells cards through his website. I was there scouting a secondary location to open up Legendary Wolf Games 2. That's what I was doing while I was there. It was part of my reasoning for going to Florida twice in a month or 2 months.
Pardon my speculation. Is this MJ that you were talking to about?
Kind of.
Okay.
I've been looking for a champion, another Myles Tyler, so to speak. That's going to be difficult. Yeah. But the other problem is it costs a lot to do this.
Of course.
The number one rule is that I don't want to compromise the brand trying to grow the brand. A lot of companies do that where they're just like, all right, we've been successful. Let's just word vomit all over the country and hope this works. And you can do that. Do I want to do that? No. So if that means that I have to wait another year or two to make sure that opening up my other locations work, yeah. And there were names that I had picked. Chicago was a place. Like I thought about talking to Chris Smith about doing it before, all the stuff happened with him. We had talked about Texas, not going towards Vegas because Jasco's too close to there. But the rule was 8 hours. So like Kansas City, Denver, anywhere where I could jump in my truck or one of my cars and drive to deal with the problem or, set something up or whatever. That was the plan. Florida just kind of worked out because I kind of talked to MJ a little bit, and the Final Fantasy presence was there, and James Lockwood is great, and just the amount of people there, it was a good draw. And I can get on a Frontier flight for $80 and fly to.
Yeah, Orlando's easy to fly to.
Yeah, Omaha is not easy to fly out of or into.
Yeah, I know.
That's why the one drawback about this place. Yeah. So, the long-term goal would be, I would love to open up other LWGs so that way everybody can have that. It's gonna sound terrible, but I'm gonna say it. That Magic list, that Yu-Gi-Oh list experience, because that's what you get now. Like every game store, it's the same thing. They just want you to play Magic, and I don't like Magic. I don't. I think it's old. It's dried up. It's a dinosaur, and it's done what it's done. It's proven its formula, and that's great. And anytime Magic player comes in the store, they go, well, Magic's the best card game. It's the oldest card game. And I say, okay, well, that's fair. But the Model T Ford was the first car, and I don't see you driving one of those. So just because something was the first doesn't mean that it's the best. I mean, I have a 96 Honda Civic that literally makes the Model T Ford look like it never did anything. And that's a 96 Honda Civic, man. So, having that attitude has kind of been, I think, a reason why a lot of game stores haven't been successful, and I want to use that to make sure that we are.
Right. The future is now, old man.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with being an old man, but still having a young heart.
A young heart. Right. With new tricks.
With new tricks. Yeah. Literally an old dog with new tricks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the plan. And I don't want it to be like a franchise. Like Starbucks doesn't franchise. They own all of their coffee shops. I would like to do something like that. And the plan is my team, the people that are working with me, to share that growth with them. One day I would love for Mason to be the me, to where, I did all the hard work now, and he's getting paid to fly to all the LWGs across the country and, make sure that they're doing what the hell that they're supposed to, and growing and, being the positive force in their community the way that they can be. And, if I could ever lock Shane down into doing a job long term, which I never think I'll be able to do, I would love to have him be the person in charge of demoing and product growth and things like that, because he knows this.
Right.
He is good at what he does. So like I said, I have a very good team and I appreciate them. And that would be my goal.
Well, Shane will hit 30 someday, Someday he will hit 30 and he will realize he needs to settle down.
Rob's not.
You don't think so?
All the conversations I've had with Shane, I don't think that's ever going to happen. It's not a bad thing, I guess. But, I mean, at the same time, nah. He's going to flip UFS cards as long as UFS cards exist. Universes cards now.
Right. Universes.
Should be.
If I were to describe your sort of ascent, I would describe it as the American dream, because it doesn't feel like you've mapped this out in any way. If I got to take away from here, it sounds like you kind of saw an opportunity and seized it, right?
Correct.
Like it's been, I know about these cars, and I'm good with my hands because I'm an artist. I was a mechanic in the Army for tanks. That translates to cars. I've liked cars my whole life. Let's open a mechanic shop, right? My local game store closed and nobody wants to take me. I'll open my own store, right? Or I'll do the online. Everybody needs these cards. I'll sell them online, right? Oh, we've got this big play group. I'll open up my store in a mall. And we've got too many arcade gamers. Let's open up a store for them too, right?
Yeah, literally.
Let me call the number on the back of this UFS pack and see what happens, right? Like it just keeps working out. This is the most American thing I've ever experienced in my life. It's wonderful, and I think it's a great storyline, man. That's why I wanted to have you on. This is exactly what I wanted to have you on for, because it is a great story.
Kind of crazy to hear that's how it goes, right?
Yeah. But it feels like that sometimes. Sometimes things just fall in your lap, and you kind of have to just roll with it. And I'm glad to see that it's working out for you.
Flexibility. That's the two things that I would probably account to why this has worked is that I try not to be rigid. Like flexibility is a big one, and then the other one would be not compromising myself. We've had players be like, $8 is a lot to play in a tournament. I'm like, it sure is when you paid $5 to a game store that doesn't exist anymore. And we all know how much these packs cost when you break down the math, and they're giving you 2 of them for $5 and they're not making any money. Yeah, you're 100% right. It felt real good for you, the consumer, but their business isn't here anymore. So I need you to understand that the reason why we're making the decisions that we're making is not only to take care of you as the consumer because I give a shit, but also because I want my business to do well, because I want the business to be here. So you have a place to come to give a shit for me to give a shit. It's a give and take and a back and forth. And like, if you're, and it's gotten a lot better, but like if your life is so rough that a $3 difference in an entry to an event to where like you just get to play and you don't have to worry about anything, and we post your deck list and stream the tournament and make sure that you get packs and always have product under the shelf and all these shortcomings that other game stores struggle with. If your big windfall is the difference between $3 and $5,
you should be here. Yeah, you should not be here.
You should not be here right now.
Go buy some ramen and take care of yourself, man. Yeah.
Correct. Like, and that's the biggest, that in the grand spectrum of everything that we've done, that's always been the big thing that everyone complains about.
$8? Like, really?
3, because like most, like the average game store for a small event's like charging $5, they give you your price support at the beginning, and then if you play it out or not doesn't matter. But like,
maybe that's in Omaha. My local stores are charging 10 to 15 per tournament, and if you go ahead, but that's what I'm saying.
I know. How do you think I came to the number 8? Because like I'm traveling to low budget, low margin game stores and seeing $5 entries,
right?
And there's like 6 players that are playing the game, and then I'm seeing the $10, $15, and the store is making like hella profit margins off of the event, but their store is in way better condition than the other one. So I was like, all right, well, what's a good average between $12 to $15 and $5? Well, 8 is fair because that's essentially the players paying for the packs into the prize pool, and we give extra stuff away all the time.
Yeah.
So it ensures that our margin is almost 50%, which is any good business. That's where you should be anyway on a retail anywhere. Right. You should be at 50% or as close to as you can possibly be, and that's what we do.
Well, Kevin Broberg and I talked about this because I've seen a few of these online tournaments try to go off. And they never happen because people have life shit going on. I mean, we have the excuse of the quarantine happening where everybody is at home anyway.
Right.
But I think putting a dollar amount on it makes it so people have to show up, right? Because now you've made it so that they can't just ignore it. Oh, I put $8 down. And like if it were $5, Kevin and I, we were joking about it, but like $5 is enough to be like, whatever, like I'll throw $5 at this thing. But $8 is like, what's the large venti latte, right? Like you're going to drink that entire thing if you bought that
entire thing. And again, Starbucks is a very, very successful company. So thank you for using that.
This is past impulse buy and has reached the cognizant buy. Right? I've spent an entire $8 on this thing, so I'm going to show up for all these rounds. And so far, I haven't seen anybody miss a round. Except for I think one guy who was like, guys, my wife is gonna kill me if I play another round of UFS, and it was in that one-day tournament. I think so like, and he was like, he told us immediately. He was like, hey, this is I can't do this. I can see, right?
Right.
So
the thing that we've been trying to do with it is that like normally when you play in this tournament, you only get to pick packs out of the game that you're playing, and there's no store credit, like none of that stuff. We literally leave that to like exchange, buy, sell, blah blah blah. This way, we were like, all right, we've got all this product sitting in this space that we couldn't normally sell, which we would. So, like, for UFS, we were like, okay, how do we get the demo decks out? So Jasco has been running into issues with them, so they haven't been able to. And we have some, so we'll use those for point values. We have an overabundance of 7th Cross because I bought more than I needed. So, if you think about it mathematically, I'm not breaking any map agreements because we're doing the point system. So, if 1 point is essentially $1 and you need 35 points to get a box of 7th Cross.
It's not a direct 1-to-1, Myles. You can't say that. That's not.
It isn't. I'm being very, very, very facetious in my wording about that.
I see I read the subtext. I understand.
So like we opened a lot of prizes that you normally couldn't get with
I think the prizes have been great. It's like characters for people who probably couldn't have access to those, you can win a
cards that you wouldn't normally play, like just all sorts of stuff.
The Midoriya and Bakugo decks,
starter deck, demo decks. And just wait. So I'm going to spill the beans to you, and then you can put this up on your show, okay? So one of the cool things that we're going to do at this tournament is that once people start taking prize support, we're probably just going to stick random things in these boxes that you're going to get. It could be something cool, like now don't quote me on this. It could be something like this little base figure, or it could be this random bag of pegs and things from this desk I put together the other day. Who knows? But you could end up getting some random stuff. And like, I never got a chance to do it, but I'm going to spoil it for Final Fantasy. We work very well with companies like GameStop and other things like that because of the nerd culture, right? So Final Fantasy Remake just came out. And you know those cool Shinra badges that they were promoting, that they were giving away if you pre-ordered the game? I don't know if
I don't, but the viewers might see them. I'm not a Final Fantasy guy.
The manager at the GameStop downstairs in the mall was like, here's a whole bag of them. Do what you will. And I was like, sick.
Put them in the bags.
We'll put them in prize support for players, and they'll never even know that they were going to get them. And then they open this thing, and they're like, holy shit. The point is that I got to witness people complaining about our tournament structure and the prizes for some of the games, and I was like, 1, we're covering the shipping for you. 2, we're letting you get things with prize support that you wouldn't normally be able to get. And 3, we don't ever just give away exactly what we say we're going to give away. Let me feel out how the tournament is going. Like at the teams tournament. No, what was it? Thursday, before we did the teams tournament at the Omaha PTC, the guys showed up and they played in an $8 tournament like Yari and some other guys. There's like 25 of us. Everybody got a box of 7th Cross. I didn't know, but like everybody came out early, and we had like 25 people that sort of play UFS the day before the PTC, the 2 days before the PTC. So like we took care of them, and we buy enough of this stuff to where like it's possible for us to do that. But like, give us the opportunity to like wow you and surprise you, because that's what we do. I mean, you didn't leave Omaha feeling empty-handed, I'm sure.
Hell no, dude. I got this one-of-a-kind PTC mat. Wait, hang on. I'll be right back. I got this thing, bro.
Oh, yeah. I love that mat.
This mat is sick, dude. I was considering using it as a mouse pad because it's so awesome, but I was like, no, it'll ruin it. It is so cool. Yeah, this is my favorite mat last year.
Yeah? Well, and I did that on purpose because, like, we always have the biggest tournaments. So I was like, all right, well, how do I fit the most characters on a play mat and keep what we're doing, the theme going? And I was looking through these books, and I saw it. As soon as I saw the picture, JT actually gave me the idea. He was like, Capcom has a bunch of art of all their characters. You should use that. And I was like, perfect. So I find this picture, and I'm like, oh, my God, they're signing up for a tournament. And literally all of the fucking characters that Capcom has ever created is in that picture. These are the people that play this card game. So many different characters. Sign me up. Let's do this. So, like, again, thematics are super important to me.
It's got to help to have that relationship with Jasco too, because I don't think I saw any other PTCs having custom art like that, or those characters, right? You had Melian,
Super Skullman, and Melian.
Yeah, and I remember you.
And we paid for those. Yep.
I'm not saying you're getting it for free.
Right.
But having the rapport with Jason has got to go a long way for going that extra mile that you've been able to go.
Right.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to insinuate that you're.
No. I know you weren't, but sometimes people take that and my connection to Jasco, and they go, "Oh, he's just getting stuff for free," which isn't the case. But like, you're right. It helps to have that rapport because I can call Jason and be like, "Yo, can we do this?" And he goes,
"Yeah, I have an idea.
I have an idea. Can we do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. It's going to cost you this amount of money." And I'm like, "Sick. Well, I'm going to have the biggest event again this year, so just tell me what it's going to cost, and I'll play the math. And if the math fits, then we'll do it." And that's what we did. And Red Horizon is his baby, so it was really easy to be like, you want the game to stay alive. You just printed the Gauge keyword. Maylin and Super Skullman have other copies of themselves.
Put them in the game.
Let's put them in the game. And he was like, I actually really like that. That's fine. So I messaged JT, and I was like, Jason said that I could use the Maylin and Super Skullman. Can you re-template their cards for me? And JT was like, sure. And a day later we had it, and then we figured out the play mat, and I came up with the format for Friday's teams event and the incentive to play in it, and then came up with the 1K. And now we use that for every game. So like, we were going to hold one for Final Fantasy, but all this stuff happened. And you've played Final Fantasy 7? Maybe, yes, no?
I told you, I've never played a single Final Fantasy game.
All right, so I'll make this brief. In Final Fantasy, there's a side game in Golden Saucer, this casino, where it's a roulette, or not roulette, but a slot. And every time that you win a battle, a new slot plays, and the slot would roll, and it would like be armor break, or you can't use your magic, or you get completely healed. Like, it was completely random. And I love Final Fantasy VII. So we're going to host a 1K where the theme was every round of play, we had a slot, and we created status elements, and that status element affected the match between you and the player. It's like a good example, haste. So like, you'd play your character and they could attack immediately. Or blind, where neither one of you could see the cards that you were playing. You'd draw your hand and the cards would be face down and you'd flip them face up. And whatever you flipped, you had to pay that cost to play the card. And we came up with one, but the playmat that we were designing that we never got to finish, it was a picture of Cloud from Remake where he's about to do cross slash and he's holding the sword like this. And at the bottom is all of the status elements in slots themed after Final Fantasy. And on the ring where you do this at, it says, "The brave do not fear the grave." It had that on. I mean, it's so cool. And I might show it to people now if we reschedule the event. But, like, we actually put so much time and effort and thought into these events to make them fun and make sure that people have a good time doing them and they want to come get the stuff.
Well, the love for it is what fuels it, right? You wouldn't do it if you didn't love it, and
correct.
And people feel that people reciprocate that love. You know, that's why we had the biggest PTC, you know, year after year, right? Keeps going, yeah.
He said it himself here, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it, Chris Bromley, right there. I mean, the numbers do back it up, but he did say it.
And he didn't have to pay me to say it. No,
I mean, I kind of already do.
Didn't have to. I didn't say you didn't. I just said you didn't have to. All right.
Oh, can I say one more thing before you end your show?
Yeah,
Is that what you're about to do?
Well, I was going to ask you about where you're at in the game because we've talked about. Yeah, go ahead.
So you and some other players are still owed monies from Worlds from us, and we kind of got back from Worlds and started realizing the world was ending before we got to pay you guys. So all of these programs that I've been trying to sign up for, I've been trying to finalize them so I can pay you guys that money because I know you need it right now. Mm-hmm. So just so you know, if you tune in and watch this, and I'm sure that I'll address this when we do our next live stream on the store, Mr. Chris Bromley, because I know that we owe you some dollars, Phil Birch and Mark Tyner and some other people, we're going to get you guys squared away. I just need to make sure that the business is squared away so I can square you away. Because if I bankrupt myself doing all this other stuff, then there's no way I can sponsor you in the future. So right. I want to make sure that you guys are taken care of, but I got to do both at the same time, which is something that we discussed. So I just wanted to touch base on that because I'm a glass case when it comes to this kind of stuff. So
okay, yeah, I think I sent Danielle a message a few weeks, and she sent me a message back, and that was right before the quarantine happened, and I was like, I'm not even going to bother. Like, it's fine.
We were all like, once we were at Worlds, mm-hmm. and all this stuff was in the news, and talking to Jason and the Dragon Ball guys and things like that were there from Canada. I immediately was like, okay, we have to start limiting our spending because I feel like this is going to get worse than it already is right now. And it was terrifying to kind of watch the descent into madness. So that was why I wanted to say something, because it's been like this. Danny's been like, all right, I need the card to do this. And I'm like, I'm going to give it to you, but let me finish figuring these things out. And literally when you messaged me, I was on a call with my banker trying to get all the government assistance stuff figured out and rent on the store. And that's literally what I've been doing all day. And we talked about that at the beginning of the show. So sponsored players, I promise I'm going to square you away. Just be patient.
Okay. I'll forward this to Phil Birch because I remember he's being Phil Birch about it. He's like, I'm owed money. I was second place in 2 things, It's pretty funny. You know how Phil Birch is. He's
I know Phil Birch. Yes, no, I'm fully aware.
Yeah.
I get it. But go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, so we've talked about Legendary Wolf, but where's Myles Tyler at in UFS right now? Are you still spamming away at Ken 2 Dot? Do you have any spice left over in the wings?
So only because I wasn't under any direct NDAs at the time. After Jasco released the ban list that kind of shook the world, where they banned like Shinnok when nobody was playing him and things like that.
Every Mark Tyner character? And mine, by the way.
Every Mark Tyner character? Yes, literally every. I don't know if he was joking. I don't know if he's serious, and it kind of scared me a little bit. Ken is on their watch list now, which is awesome, but awful because, like, I know that Ken's terrifying. You know Ken's terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
I also know that Ken can just die. Like, Danny just came out and said, I also know you just hold high blocks, which sometimes doesn't work. But, like, the fear of...
Sometimes he hits 2, and 2 speed on a 5-speed attack is too much when you're stunned out. Like, and sometimes Myles Tyler is told to remove your Zasalamels, and you don't have any negative speed hate.
Anyway, don't blame my fatalities for my good play mistakes. Anyway, so he tells me this, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm putting Ken down because I don't want to be the reason why Ken gets banned, because I would love to be able to, like, touch this character again with new cards.
Right.
So, like, I'll be honest, I was a little let down. I haven't really played any UFS since I got back from Worlds, because I was a little afraid of, or not from Worlds, but from the ban list got posted. Right. Because, you know, I love Ken and I don't want to get him banned, but I am touching this really spicy Vega deck that is really unfair. Okay, like completely.
Is this a Hellfire Impalement Vega?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm allowed to speculate. Come on, you gotta give us some spice. What's in it?
That shit is dumb. Yeah, Let me take you through a turn.
Uh-huh.
All right, these are all 0 and 1s. Cool. 0, 0, or 1, 0, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I passed them all and didn't check any ones. Perfect. I played 5 cards out, failed the last one. I've got 1 card in hand. Your turn, go. Commit Vega. You failed that last foundation. That's fine. My turn. 2 Hailfire Impalements. Is that a coffee Samba? You got 3. Oh, you got 5. You got 3. Okay, all right. Samba, draw 2. Give it stun 5. Stun the 5. Sick. Hellfire. Oh, I've got 5 foundations on a 6. I've got 5 foundations on a 6. Checks a 2. Commit out. Milton.
Ready for.
I draw 4. Yeah. Oh, now I'll remove 5 bad checks. Perfect. Ready the 5. Oh, man. Drew another Hellfire Impalement. This is a 5 for 7. I've still got Vega and, what is it?
All of my foundation?
All of my foundation. I got this one diff that I flip upside down to give your check -1. Sick. This is 5 high for 7. Oh, you failed the check.
Oh, oops. It checks it too, though, Myles. It's a fair card.
I'll play this on a 7. Checks a 6. Commit 1, 7. I won't mill for draw. I'll just remove 1 and ready this foundation. Perfect. It is I played through a Goro. I played Mr. Horonsky at Gamma. He's playing Shane's Goro deck, and I literally he had Shokin Princes out, and I was just like, I'll build. Fail your turn. It's fine. He got burnt out because he couldn't kill me. My little 19 life.
Because it's Vega. It's Vega, dude. It's Vega. He's still Vega. Yeah, I played the first online tournament. I played Janet with 28 bad checks, and there were turns where I quite literally attacked 14 times because of True Identity plus Hellfire Impalement, and then at the end of a string, you're just like, Covert Intent. I'm gonna draw 5 more. I guess keep going.
Let's do this again.
Yeah.
You can't do anything.
You don't have any cards in your hand. Draw 4 more, even though your staging area is committed. Like it's
completely committed. Yeah.
Yeah. When that deck goes off, it is actually the most busted thing I've ever seen. But it plays 0 defense, and it checks nothing but 1s and 2s when it's blocking. So if you can survive, I guess. If you can survive,
if you get lucky, if you survive and get lucky, great. But if not,
I'm surprised you're not putting that in Ken, because if you're trying to get Ken not banned, it's instead playing Hellfire Impalement and Ken and getting Hellfire Impalement banned, right?
No, because they'll ban both.
No. You don't understand, because you show them that Hellfire Impalement can be played on anything, right?
We already did.
Okay,
the sideboard for this deck is just other characters that can play it just guys. As good as Vega.
Yeah. Okay,
but I thought about it. I was like, maybe I'll just play this card in Ken. And then I went, oh, yeah, I need to build like 4 or 5 foundations on turn 1. I can't afford bad checks in my deck.
Yeah, the real answer is that Ken doesn't have any problems drawing cards, and he also has no problems keeping his stuff ready when he has the 4 foundations he needs. So it's kind of like more gas where he doesn't particularly need it.
He doesn't have to play bad checks to do it.
Yeah, you can play another character like Ken in a way that is similar to the way that Ken's play style is, so he doesn't really need it. But it would be funny. It would be funny. Even more, right?
Who else? I thought about picking up Van Helsing. I like her. I thought about going back to Vicious. I wanted to play bass again.
Mm-hmm.
And none of the DLC characters really have like tickled
grabbed
my
your
fancy.
attention.
No, Van Helsing I think was the only one. The dark one's kind of cool, but Ibuki seems cool, but she doesn't seem like she could ever kill anybody efficiently. I know she has some tricks, but like they all seem kind of convoluted.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's been the other problem. I love UFS as a card game, but none of the IPs draw me anymore. Like the fact that Jason is so dead set on not picking King of Fighters up again kind of breaks my heart. And it does.
You know what's funny?
I understand why, but
I know nothing about the experience. I've heard about it, but it's
he didn't have a bad experience with SNK. It's that King of Fighters is not a big license.
Right.
Like
it's not a big draw. It's not
right.
Like My Hero Academy is a giant draw.
Yeah,
so
which is
I get it.
Silly.
I get it. Yeah.
But I get it.
I'm completely opposite of you, by the way. You're very about the characters. Like I know you play Terry because it's Terry. You might have played Vicious because you like the mechanic. I think that Vicious is the deck that you probably were just like, this is a cool thing that I want to do.
When we figured out that I could lock you out from blocking attacks.
Yeah. That was crawling. A mechanic. That was a mechanic thing, right?
It was a meta play too, because Spike was running rampant. And we needed to be able to stop Spike because Spike was really good. Mm. And Vicious at the time was like, I already counter him, but how can I make stopping Spike that much better? And it was, I'll just flip your whole board and attack you with missile launchers and you can't block anything. And then I have short fuse that tells you you're prepared to fight or blank. So
well, I'm very much the opposite. Most of the characters I've played have been blank in the art department. Like I could give a shit if it looks good. I just like having like a really like fun ability to play around. You know, if I can have a toolbox, that is my wet dream. You know, like that's why
what Quan Chi was.
yeah. Quan Chi was a literal just blank check to do whatever you wanted to do with the game. You know.
I think that's been my attitude about the game too. Like being able to be successful playing UFS and playing characters that I like, and like my runs with Terry. Shane will tell you, like he sat down and watched me build the race car deck, and Kevin Broberg, you can ask him about this deck too. This was the year that Phil Birch won with Jiffany Jamber, where she was literally just a blank character with 8 cards in hand, and he drew a Scorch Wheel and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, fuck, if all the decks are turn 2-ing you and drawing 40 cards, I'm going to do the same thing. So I went back through all the 2 difficulty and 3 difficulty attacks in the game with Throw It Down with Terry and went, I'm going to attack you on turn 1 and play Zing at the end of my turn. And if you block something along the way, my 2-diff attack is a 10 damage attack that you have to deal with to make my next attack 10 damage. So come at me, bro. And if I can't kill you by turn 2, I'm off-symboling self-destruct to reset the game, and we'll just do this shit again.
This sounds a lot like my Morgan, me Morgan, because I run Dragon's Tongue in it in case somebody gets to the point where they can block my attacks anymore.
Oh no! At the Reno PTC that following year, the first 2 or 3 rounds of the tournament, they would say fight, and the first thing I said was throw it down on a 2, and I'd play throw it down, and every round the players were like throw it down on a 2. Sure as shit, that's what I did. So like, it's been this big. It was at first it was this constant adaptation playing Terry. It didn't matter what the format was, as I needed to find a way to play Terry in the format, which I always did. Then 1 dot rotated, and then Terry 2, I found that stupid hand control combo. I don't know if you ever saw it, but there was a card in King of Fighters called not Silent Assassin. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a 3-5 that you destroyed, and you made your opponent discard a card at random, and your attack got +2 damage. Well, Street Fighter just come out, and it has the good enhance destroy, add a foundation from your discard pile to your staging area.
Alpha male.
Yeah. So I would pop Alpha Male to put Silent Assassin, that's what it was called, back down into my staging area, respond with Hi-Fi, and make you pitch a card, then pop Silent Assassin after I had done it already and get 3 cards out of your hand and get 2 damage. And then Terry 2 said your attack gets 1 speed and 3 damage if it's preceded by a non-attack. So I would play Silent Assassin from my hand into the card pool, pop Cheerful and Friendly, which let me put Silent Assassin down. So after I had done all this, I had dumped all the cards out of your hand and just hit you for 15 damage twice and then won the game. So I showed up to Rochester playing this deck, and Dave, what is his last name? He's in Air Force. Oh, man, I feel so bad because we sponsored him. Toll, yeah. No, who was it? Powell, Dave Powell, shows up to Rochester, first PTC, sits down across from me. He's like, oh, yeah, you're the Terry guy. I'm playing 2 dot, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, cool. And I play my turn, and I build some foundation. He goes, and then I start attacking him, and he's like, oh, you're just playing 2. And then I pitched all the cards out of his hand, and he was like, oh. And nobody knew what to do about this deck. I played Phil Birch. I played Piglet. I'm killing everyone. And then I just got an unlucky draw in the finals and lost to Piglet, and he won the PTC. That seems to be like how it goes for me.
Occasionally, that may happen. I think there's going to be a PTC real soon where Myles Tyler will squeak in, baby. Because that match we played up was so close, man. I think it was a razor's edge. Like, I think the first game you missed a lethal by 1 can enhance, right?
Yes.
And then the third game I needed to check a 5, right? Like if I didn't check a 5, I was definitely dead the next turn.
Yep.
So yeah, I sure did. And it was all skill, baby. You can't tell me anything otherwise. Of course.
You played that extra foundation to get the damage in there.
The Wishing Ward.
The Wishing Ward. And I was like, oh, his turn's over. And then I realized exactly what was happening. I was like, all right, well, check a 5 or don't. If you don't, I win. And you sure as shit checked a 5.
I think I checked a 6 on it. No, it was a 5. It was a 5. I had the type of Yeah, I had the type character too. Yeah,
my god,
that was a funny match. Yeah.
Fucking shotgun.
Fucking shotgun. Absolutely, 100% agree. Okay,
yeah, that's what I'm looking at playing. But I want to see what happens with my hero and the rest of the DLC characters, and then I'll make a decision from there.
Yeah.
That would we bunny trailed a little bit, but.
You're good. Is there a character? Are you a big My Hero fan? Is there a character in there that's kind of your
Ida?
I said to my girlfriend, I bet that Myles Tyler's favorite character is Tenny Ida.
Oh my god, he's my favorite character so much, and it might have something to do with the whole running because I love to run, and the whole auto engines in his legs, and that he's the leader of the class, and he's funny but not purposefully, and he's like got a good sense of like his moral standing, and sometimes it gets corrupted like it did in the show. I like Ida for that. Like
he's had a great arc, man. He's had a great arc. I don't understand how having engines in your your legs is gonna work out. I don't know how that works, but it's magic. It's magic. It works. He's a very fun character. I agree with you. I'm super hyped to see the My Hero stuff. Okay, man. Do you have any shout outs you want to give out?
Yeah. So I want to say thank you to everybody I've talked about in the show. First and foremost, to you for inviting me to come here and ramble with you for the last hour and a half.
Thanks for coming
on. Shane, Danny, Mason, Ramon, Trevor, Kyrie, like my whole team at the store. Jasco, Jason, JT, all those guys are fucking awesome. I love them to death. Shout outs to the RVA returners guys. Chris Adams came and played at Worlds this year. James Lockwood from Florida and Cards of Evilise, now that they're carrying UFS stuff on their website and stuff like that. Rochester for keeping the game alive when it died. Sean O'Brien, I love you, even if we poke fun at each other all the time. Same thing for you, Kevin Broberg. I mean, like, just everybody. I want to thank literally the whole community for the support, because like I said without my team, I can't make the store work. But without good customers, there's no possible way that we could have the success that we have. And we're doing everything that we can to share our success with the community and make sure that you guys have the things that you need so you can stay competitive and constantly take your gaming from ordinary to legislative. So I gotta
throw it in there.
I gotta throw it in there. I'm technically, as I sponsor myself, contractually obligated to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes. I know it's kind of a stupid wet blanket statement, but I do want to thank, everybody that patrons of the store, people that follow the Facebook page, if you're watching this and, we've interacted at any point and you've gotten to come to the store, like real talk, like we literally cannot do any of this without you. So thank you. I appreciate all of you. I want everybody to stay safe. I wish that the world goes back to a great place. I hope that none of the people that I know and interact with playing card games gets this virus and loses their life. I don't even want to think about that right now. And I hope that everybody gets through this and their families and everybody is safe. Like, I thank you. That's all I want. If we get to play card games after all this is over again,
that would be great.
That'd be great. That's it. So, yeah, man, thank you guys so much.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the show. Thanks a ton.
Yeah, of course.
I of course will give my shout out to my sponsor, Legendary Wolf Games, and my beautiful girlfriend. All my great.
Oh, look at that hand wave.
I guess she woke up.
Yeah, we have been kind of loud, haven't we?
Yeah, we have been a little bit. We've been having fun. I'm just really happy. I'm really happy that we get to talk about this because it's something that I wanted to talk about regardless because I think that you're a curious character. I think that you're very charming, and I'm glad to have a community leader like you around. Yeah. Okay, man.